The show starts with the story of a man who reigned 2,000 years ago, a man who wiped out nations, burned down the forest of spirits, and killed the gods. This man took tyranny to its extremes, and before his gaze, even reason was obliterated. He was the Demon King of Tyranny. It's the opening day at Del's Gate Academy, a school to train the descendants of the founder, the Demon King of Tyranny, to become the new Demon King. And as rumor has it, after 2,000 years, the founder is to awaken this year. Many students come from far and wide to enter this prestigious academy, as they could be the reincarnation of the Demon King. As the students enter the school, we see a white-haired, shy-looking girl clenching a letter as she walks gracefully into the school. As she continues walking, we see a loud man cheering for her, and when she turns with a smile to look at him, she's bumped into by a guy talking to his friend, who makes her letter fall from her hands to the ground and can't care less about the person he hit and keeps on moving. As she looks at the letter on the ground in shock, we see a hand pick up the letter, and it rises to the handsome face of our main character, Anos Holdigode. As he picks up the letter, slowly reads her name on it, Nekron. A cool guy, I'd say. As she thanks him for his help, her voice is swallowed by the roaring cheers of his parents. As his parents took turns in cheering for their son, the walkway is at a standstill looking at such a sight. Embarrassing, right? He looks at them with a smile on his face. He likes it. He then turns around with Misha. They continue to advance toward the school gate. Yeah, their parents being the only parents there cheered them on. Getting to the school gate, they are met by a pompous gray-haired student who happens to be a noble of the Indu family, Zeeps, who comes to stand in their way with hands on his waist and head held up high as if posing for a pic. Sadly, after such efforts, he's badly ignored by the duo who just pass by him like he isn't there. Infuriated by the ignorance shown to him, he follows them, calling out to Anos, who makes him even angrier by telling him that his magic power is too weak. That's why he didn't see him. Now Zeeps is beyond mad and wants to show him a lesson. I guess we always have the cocky character who thinks he's better than the new guy. So he challenges Anos to a fight and pulls out what is meant to be a very strong move, which according to Zeeps is a flame of a darkness notorious for burning even the gods to a crisp, and threatens to burn Anos and Misha down to their skeleton. Hearing the words come out of his mouth, he then breaks into uncontrolled laughter as he feels his superiority. Amid his laughter, Anos blows his fire away and leaves him in shock. Still in shock and enraged, he asks Anos what he did to his fire. Anos replies with a hint of sarcasm that he just blew the light from a match. That would sting. That angered Zeeps all the more, but before he could do anything about it, Anos telekinetically froze his movements as Zeeps, even though conscious, couldn't move. Now you would think Zeeps would have learned his lesson, but he didn't. After that little showdown of theirs at the school entrance, they have a practice skills test where examinees get to face one another in an arena. Each match is decided after an examinee is either incapacitated or forfeits. The winner gains admission into the school and loser doesn't. And as you've guessed, Zeeps was to face Anos yet again. Unlike last time, Zeeps comes very prepared as he puts on an anti-magic suit of armor to protect himself from whatever magic attacks Anos might try against him, and a magic sword to boost his fire magic a lot more. He is ready to take down Anos this time. Face to face with Anos, Zeeps starts boasting yet again, saying Anos would be too scared to face him. Anos says the same thing to him, and he's angry once again. Anos tries to silence him again with that crippling move from earlier. It does not affect him this time because of his anti-magic armor, which he goes on to brag about. Annoying, right? The match begins. Zeeps draws out his magic sword, which he proudly explains is a relic owned by the Demon King passed down in his family with the capabilities of boosting his magic tenfold, blah blah blah. Like, why do Anon characters always do this? Zeeps starts the fight by charging aggressively toward Anos with his flaming sword, and like last time, he is knocked off his high horse when Anos blows out the fire in his sword once more. The whole arena is surprised. Anos then points out that the relic is a fake. This only makes Zeeps all the more furious at this point. Anos then goes further to give Zeeps a deal too good to pass on. He tells him that he will handicap himself. He won't move from the spot he was in, not use any magic or infuse magic to his words or breath, nor even move a limb, and he would still beat Zeeps. Talk about being downgraded. Zeeps, thinking it was a bluff meant to mask the fact that Anos couldn't get past his anti-magic armor, called him out on it, and as he is speaking he burst with injuries within his armor and started spitting out blood. What? Yeah, Anos is the cause, but he didn't go back on his word of absolutely doing nothing because his heartbeat was the one doing the damage. Unbelievable, right? His heartbeat sounding so loud is the cause, and as it keeps on beating, more injuries are being inflicted on Zeeps. The students are astonished as they can't believe what their eyes are seeing. With Zeeps bent over vomiting blood, Anos turns around to leave, but Zeeps still has some pride in him, so he calls Anos back. When will this dude learn? He even goes on to taunt Anos that he only thrives because he uses compulsion magic. Interesting, Anos thinks as he stumped on his head and tells Zeeps that if he can make Zeeps surrender without using any compulsion magic he wins, and if he doesn't, Zeeps automatically has the win. Trust, Zeeps wants in on the action, so they agree. Anos, taking his foot off Zeeps' head, conjures a spell and snaps his finger, killing Zeeps immediately. What? Using a drop of Zeeps' blood, he uses a spell to bring him back to life. Just as it was at the beginning of the match, the crowd remains astonished. I mean, who wouldn't? Zeeps, who just regains consciousness, is shocked at what just happened, but before he utters a word, Anos snaps his fingers once more and he's obliterated to small pieces again. Immediately, Anos brings him back. Weirdly, Anos cracks a dry joke in that moment as he says that he can keep resurrecting Zeeps back to life as long as it's within 3 seconds, and that is the 3-second rule. In case you missed it, just like the entire audience in attendance, the 3-second rule part is the joke. After his joke falls flat, he looks at Zeeps, who in his trembling breath reminds Anos that he's a royal. Not paying attention to anything Zeeps is saying, he snaps his fingers once more, obliterating Zeeps again. The audience is now spooked with a tinge of disgust. Anos doesn't mind as he keeps snapping his fingers and resurrecting Zeeps. After it goes on for a while, Zeeps finally gives in and surrenders. Who can blame him at this point, or so you'd think? But his brother is disgusted by the sight of his brother, a royal, keeling over and surrendering to a commoner, and vexed by Anos, who defiled a royal. The next test is the magic power assessment, and each candidate is to place their hand on a large crystal, and the value of their power would reflect on the mirror. While some candidates had values like 128, 98, and 218, Misha had a value of 100,246, but that was nothing compared to Anos, who had a value of 0. You were expecting more, right? After Anos' value of 0 is shown, the crystal is destroyed, something that never happened before, indicating his magic power is too strong even for the crystal. They advance to the next test, which is an aptitude test about their knowledge of the Demon King. Of course, it was all too easy for Anos. As the school closes and they return home, Anos invites Misha over to his house to celebrate their entry into the school. She agrees. Anos then teleports them to his house. As they enter, they are met by Anos' mother, who asks about how his admission went. On hearing he passed, she hugs him to congratulate him. This would have been a normal scene if she didn't mention it shortly after that she is surprised he passed just a month after he was born. What? Anos was born a month before and grew to be a teenager within that time. She then invites him to eat his favorite food, mushroom gratin, which she'd made down. After talking to Anos, she realizes he is accompanied by a female who he goes on to introduce as Misha Nekron, a girl he met at the academy. Anos' mother immediately jumps to the conclusion that he brought home a wife, and instead of scolding him, cries with tears of joy. His father, on hearing this, runs out from the room he was in to congratulate his son for getting a wife. You can say this couple were meant for each other. After the meal, Anos escorts Misha home, who continually thanks him for the meal and goes on to reveal that the man who cheered her on earlier is her guardian. As they walk through the park discussing, a makeshift arena is made around the two of them using creation magic. It is Zeeps' elder brother and his support. He goes on to introduce himself as Demon Lord Liord Indu. Zeeps, who is lurking in the shadows, runs out to stand beside his brother and starts boasting once more. His brother, who gets irritated by his boasting, picks him up and electrocutes him, saying the Indu family had use for weaklings who put themselves on such pitiful display. The electrocution eventually kills Zeeps. Yeah, brutal. Anos, surprised by what happened, sets out to teach Liorg a lesson or two about brotherhood. He turns Zeeps into a revenge-seeking zombie with twice of Liorg's powers and sends him after Liorg. Liorg tries to fight Zeeps off, but it's to no avail as he can't win against Zeeps, who is now stronger than him. How can he win? Anos then tells him to stop fighting back and call out his brother's name. No longer letting his stubbornness control him, Liorg then calls out Zeeps' name as Zeeps is about to finish him off. The explosion from both their powers kills them both and causes the arena to start collapsing. Anos, while protecting Misha and the other goons in the arena from the falling rocks, resurrect the brothers back to life. After the arena collapses, Anos takes them to a safe spot, and as he leaves he tells them to power up and fight him anytime. Zeeps, who has finally learned his lesson, quickly declines. As Anos turns around to leave once more, Liorg asks him who he is. Anos then tells them that their long-awaited founder has returned. He is the true demon king of tyranny, Anos Voldigode. Episode 2 begins with a flashback to 2,000 years ago when Anos had a conversation with the hero Kanan about them making peace. Kanan doesn't take the idea lightly as he believes that peace could not be achieved after Anos had killed a lot of humans. Anos responds by reminding Kanan about the facts that Kanan also had killed demons and humans, thinking defeating him will bring peace is a false notion. He tells Kanan that even if the demons get wiped out, humans will make new enemies, with the spirits and gods till they turn on each other. He goes on to come up with a solution for peace, which is separating both races with a huge wall, but to do this he and Kanan had to put all their magic power, leading to his death in the process. Kanan finds his words hard to believe. Who wouldn't? A demon king sacrificing himself for peace that I hardly heard of. They carry out the plan, and the hero Kanan promises that if he were to reincarnate 2,000 years as Anos, they would be friends. Opening his eyes 2,000 years later, Anos sees himself in the loving arms of his father and mother. As they go on to give him a name, he says with a grown voice that his name is Anos Voldigode. Yes, a newborn baby spoke. Fast forward to the present day. The class is divided into color codes, with the purebloods in red uniforms sitting at the front and the half-bloods or hybrids in white uniforms occupying the remaining back of the class. Sitting in the back seat of the class, Anos is with Misha when she tells him that he is called a misfit among students because no demon descendant ever failed the name of the demon king, which Anos did in his aptitude test. Anos finds out from Misha the demon king's name by reading her memory because it is forbidden to say his name out loud. He sees that the demon king's name is wrong and has been that way for the past 2,000 years. Seeing this, he continues asking Misha questions about the demon king to check what other wrong information has been passed down. As they talk, a girl wearing a red uniform walks behind them and looks at them with a smile on her face as she takes her seat. As their teacher comes into class, she tells them of their next assignment, which requires them to form teams that consist of each of them having a role, with the most important being the king, who will be whoever is the team leader. The teacher then throws the question to the class for who would want to be a team leader, and his hands go up around the class. The girl from earlier raises her hand. Anos also raises his hand, and as he does so, everyone looks at him, as it is believed that hybrids can't be team leaders because they can't control the power guys bestowed only to team leaders, which is to be used to amplify the power of the team members. The teacher, seeing Anos' hand up, tells him about this fact, and Anos sets to prove her wrong by not only using the power, but making it 2 times stronger. At this point, the teacher as well as the class is forced to accept Anos as a team leader. The teacher then calls on the team leaders to introduce themselves. The girl from earlier stands up and introduces herself as Sasha Nekron. Yes, she is Misha's sister, but how is she pure blood while Misha is a hybrid? Stay tuned to find out. After the introductions had gone around, with Anos introducing himself once more as the Demon King of Tyranny, the remaining students were asked to choose teams. The students quickly joined the team leaders of their choice, with none joining Anos, leaving just him and Misha as the members of the team. After the class, as Anos and Misha head out to go home, Sasha lies in wait at the gate. And just like Zeep's on to challenge him that if she wins it in the tournament, he will be her slave, and if he wins, she will join his group and reconcile with her good-for-nothing sister. She hates Misha. Anos agreed. A week later is the time of the tournament, and they are to face each other, Team Anos versus Team Sasha. The tournament aimed to see which team could protect their king best. Sasha and her teammates went on to build a castle using creation magic. While they fortified their castle, Misha went on to build 3 castles, but they were of inferior quality. As Sasha makes jest of Misha's castles and plans to attack them, Anos appears in front of hers. In shock, her teammates ask for a course of action, and as they do, Sasha boasts that he made a big mistake as she boasts Anos replies to her from outside. "How can he hear us?" They all fought. Sasha still doesn't mind as she feels that even if he can hear them, he can't still breach their castle defenses all by himself. Anos, feeling the barrier for himself, says it's weak and breaks through it at ease. You might want to brace yourselves for this next part. He goes on to lift the castle by the edge he is using to hold it and throws it up in the air with its center landing on his middle finger. He then goes on to spin the whole castle with all of them inside. What? Like that wasn't enough, after spinning it, he throws the castle away. As the castle lands on the ground, it begins to collapse, injuring Sasha and her teammates inside. In a bid to get a comeback, Sasha urged her teammates that they use their last option, Dio Grace. This is a magic power activated by a group of people transferring a large amount of their magic into a single person, which in this case is Sasha, as she is their team leader and has the Eye of Destruction. So they use the power to form a very large cannon which they shoot at Anos. All for one person. Come on. Seeing this, Anos shoots a small bullet from his winded finger towards the explosion, and like some of you are already guessing, it not only puts out their fireball but destroys their cannon. Damn. He teleports to the front of Sasha and her teammates. At the same time, Misha flies to and lands gently just beside him. Anos then goes on to remind Sasha of their deal as she is lost. He also compliments her eyes of destruction, saying it's the most beautiful thing he has ever seen. This makes Sasha blush. What a way to win a girl's heart. Later that evening, Anos takes both Misha and Sasha home, and just like last time, his parents celebrate him, bringing 2 wives home. His father is particularly proud because unlike him, his son is pulling 2 girls. What a weird bunch they are. After dinner, Anos escorts the 2 sisters who have now made up home. Reaching their mansion, Misha thanks Anos and goes inside while Sasha stays with Anos outside. While outside, she thanks him for reconciling her and her sister. The episode comes to an end. As she calls him closer, she suddenly kisses him on a lips. Guys, lips a kiss she claims is a kiss between friends, but he was her first. Cute, right? Or is it? The new episode opens up in the classroom where Anos and Misha are sitting at the back discussing what gift Misha can give Sasha on her birthday, which is tomorrow. While the conversation continues, Sasha enters the class and comes to join Anos and Misha at their side of the class. The class begins. The lecture today will be given by one of the 7 elder demon emperors, the teacher says. She goes on to warn Anos to be of good behavior, and as some of you are already guessing, he didn't adhere to it. The 7th elder demon emperor, Ivis Nekron, enters the class, and just as he makes his way towards the podium in the front of the class, Anos stands up and says, "Hey Ivis, long time no see." The boldness. Everyone is surprised, including Ivis, who turns around to see who is addressing him so casually. The teacher, on the other hand, apologizes to Ivis about Anos' behavior. Not minding, Ivis tries to make sense of Anos' statement, "Long time no see." Anos then goes on to tell him that it's been 2,000 years since they last met. Unfortunately, Ivis has lost his memory from that time. In a bid to restore his memories, Anos walks to Ivis and places his hand on the face of Ivis. The class is once again thrown into turmoil as they can't believe what's going on. After some time, Anos returns to his seat and they decide to pick it up after the class. After the class, they go outside to talk. As they talk, Anos confirms that he rewound time locally in his memory, taking it back to 2,000 years. Damn. And he discovered that Ivis' memory of him isn't as Anos Voldigod, but as Avos to Helvia, which means that the tampering with his memories happened 2,000 years ago. Not wanting to dismiss Anos' claims as the demon king of tyranny, nor to completely accept him as a comrade rather than a foe, he decides to remain neutral about the situation because something about Anos brings back memories for him. The students then move on to their exam, which is a dungeon exam and is held at the Demon Palace, Delsgate. Each team is required to bring magic items, tools, or weapons found inside, and for each item found, points go to the team leader. While other teams set out, Anos and his teammates, Misha and the newly joined Sasha, stay behind as Anos claims that it is his place and he knows where to find the scepter which is set to give them perfect points. They then stroll their way into the palace following Anos. Soon they get to a brick wall which Anos proves is a false wall as he breaks through it, revealing a compound that no one knew of. He then continues to a very large door that has anti-magic on it, and as Misha and Sasha ponder on how to open this large door, Anos, using brute strength, opens it. At this point, what can this guy not do? Going in, they see the scepter which would give, and while Sasha stares at it, Anos and Misha go into a smaller room where Anos shows Misha a collection of items she could choose from to give Sasha. She then chooses a phoenix robe to gift Sasha. As they return, she gives Sasha the robe, and in need of privacy to put on the robe, she asks Anos to return to the room. After some time, Anos comes out of the room again. He sees Sasha holding the scepter and the phoenix robe, and Misha on the ground with a knife to her chest. Intrigued by Misha's actions, Anos goes on to ask Misha about herself. Misha then goes on to tell him that on the midnight of her 15th birthday, which is today, she is to disappear because she never existed in the first place. Anos also confirms that they are one person as Ivis formed them from one source. In a bid to fulfill Misha's last wish of knowing how Sasha feels about her, the two then go on to catch up with Sasha. Sasha is just about to make her way out to the palace when they catch up with her. To avoid the question at hand, she challenges Anos yet again to a battle, but this time she is to draw a magic circle and Anos is to completely control it. If you are already guessing what comes next, you're right. They go to the underground compound that Anos revealed earlier. Long story short, she draws the circle and Anos instantly controls it, making him the obvious winner, which means that Sasha has to answer the question. Sasha then tells Misha that the reason she acts badly to her isn't because she hates her but because she loves her. So here's the gist. Since they're of the same source, they're one person, and Sasha, who has enjoyed her life so far, plans to be fused with Misha, who for most of her life has received little to no recognition whatsoever because everyone takes her as non-existent. So for Sasha's fusion plan to work, she needed Misha to hate her. Hence, the reason for her behavior all this time. Her plan doesn't work as Misha still loves her dearly and accepts her fate to be the one to disappear. Anos, hearing this, decides that none of them has to disappear and all it takes is for them to believe in him. Something that I must say some of you watchers already do. Just before he starts the process, Ivis breaks through the ceiling and pierces him in the chest with a huge sword. Doing this, he acknowledges Anos as the founder and goes on to say that the reason he formed the girls in that manner was so that they could resurrect his master. Say what now? Of course, the blow isn't enough to kill Anos as he pushes Ivis away, sticking into one of the palace walls, and pulls the sword from his body, which heals immediately. Without wasting any time, he started the process. They successfully go back in time, even though Anos has to fight with the god of time who used Ivis as his champion, but the girls are separate beings now. After the process has been concluded, Anos then brings Ivis back to life, but Ivis' memory is still gone, and he also confesses that his source had been corrupted, hence the reason he behaved the way he did. Anos, seeing he has changed, then implores him to find the cause by first investigating the other 6 of the 7 Elder Demon Emperors. As some of you might have guessed, the episode draws to a close as Anos invites Misha and Sasha to his house to eat. This episode, like episode 2, begins with a flashback to 2,000 years ago, but this time the Demon King is seen with his best swordsman, who he then goes to promise will reincarnate with him when he returns. Coming back to the present, Anos and the other students are seen in the class. The teacher announces that a transfer student will be joining them the next day and calls the results for the just concluded dungeon exams. It shocks Sasha, who anticipated a perfect score, that they would be given 70 over 100 on the basis that the scepter is misplaced and the school authorities hadn't confirmed its ingenuity. Angered by this, a hybrid girl who happens to be the head of the union group stands up to defend Team Anos that if it was a royal that brought the scepter, they would have been awarded a full mark till the scepter is found. Anos, displeased by all the commotion, stands up and pulls the scepter from a student's body and gives the teacher as he whispers in her ear that she should do a better job of hiding it next time. Yes, the teacher did it. After the class, the union head goes to introduce herself to Anos as Misa and invites him to their base of operation. Led by Misa and accompanied by Sasha and Misha, Anos goes to the tower where the union operates, where he meets other Unitarians. They were his little fan club as they believed he was the Demon King of Tyranny. They also asked to join his team, but he gives them the condition that they have to prove themselves first. The next day, they have sword lessons, and to kick off the lesson, they are to each pull out one of the many swords stuck to the ground. As everyone struggled to pull out theirs, Anos, just using his eyes, pulled his out, and just as the students are stunned by this feat, their attention is quickly turned to another student who pulls out his. It is the transfer student. Back in the class, this new pure-blood student goes over to Anos and introduces himself as Legland Zidli. He also goes further to say that he wants to join Team Anos. With a smile on his face, Anos challenges him to a battle, with him being the team leader and the Unitarians being his team members. The next day comes and the fight begins. Misha forms a large ice castle while Sasha goes to fight the other team's moving castle head-on, and Anos fights Lei, who wields a sword with a twig. And as most might have guessed, he won. So both Lei and Misa are now in Team Anos. Like some of you might have expected to be the end of Episode 5, Episode 6 opens with the Team Anos celebrating in Anos' house. After the meal, Misa goes outside to thank Lei for helping him in the competition. Meanwhile, Misha and Sasha with Anos' mom look at his photo album as a child. His parents then go forward to tell him that Anos almost died as a child, and in a bid to not lose her child, Anos' mom prayed for him and promised to accept him. However, he turned out as long as he lived. The next day at school, the Magic Sword Tournament is announced, and from Anos' class, Lei and Anos are selected. The teacher and the rest of the class are happy about Lei being a choice but aren't receptive to the idea of Anos being chosen. Anos feels it's a trap set by the royals. This is a concern he shares with Lei outside the class before they're interrupted by Misa, who wants to introduce him to Melhais, who was the only Elder Demon Emperor among backing the Unitarians. Agreeing to her request, Anos goes to see Melhais, who at the sight of Anos falls to a kneeling position to greet him. The reason he could remember Anos is because he left the demon realm 2,000 years ago. Why and how? He didn't remember because, like Idas, he lost his memory. Upon returning 100 years later, he sees that the demon realm has a new name for the Demon King. It seems Anos doesn't fully trust him, as later on he tells Ivis to put an eye on him. He also tells him to put an eye on Lei, who turned down his help to heal his mother, who was very sick at the hospital. The episode draws to a close as Anos discovers that Melhi is only a figurehead as the backing of the Unitarians, who are oblivious to this fact. Apart from this mysterious backing, there is also a mysterious figure in the town. The day of the competition dawns, and as the matches are about to start, Idas reports to Anos that even though Melhi has no hand in the tournament, 2 other Elder Demon Emperors are. The tournament then starts, and the first match is between Anos and his teacher's brother, Krut Ludoel, who is the defending champion of the tournament. Of course, the tournament is booming at the sound of Krut's name, but grows very silent at the sound of Anos' name. Anos' father with bandages gives Anos the sword he made for him, and Anos makes his way to the podium in swag as he jumps off from the top row of the stadium. The match begins, and in a bid to atone for his time wastage, Anos promises to finish Krut off in 1 minute. Wow! Will Anos be able to achieve this feat? Or will he get trapped in whatever schemes the 2 Elder Demon Emperors have set for him? Not forgetting Hero Canon's promise, will he reincarnate this year as Anos? And will they be friends? Thanks for watching, and if you want to see the second part of this video, kindly subscribe, like, and comment on this video. Till next time.